The arrangement. The grandfather clock in the hallway chimed 9 times as Vikram Malhotra loosened his tie and placed his briefcase by the door. The house was quiet, as it always was. He moved through the familiar routine, shoes by the entrance, jacket on the hook, wallet and keys in the wooden bowl his mother had gifted them 4 years ago at their wedding. 4 years of pristine silence. The dining table was set with a single plate, covered with a steel dome to keep the food warm. Priya always ensured dinner was ready, though she never joined him. A yellow post-it note stuck to the table read, "There's more in the fridge if needed." Her handwriting was neat and measured, just like everything else about her. Vikram lifted the dome. Rice, dal, and vegetable curry, the same meal he'd eaten twice this week already. He sat alone, scrolling through emails on his phone as he ate mechanically. The sound of his fork against the plate echoed through the empty dining room. Somewhere upstairs, he knew Priya would be in her room, perhaps reading or working on her embroidery. They had mastered the art of avoiding each other despite sharing the same address. The 2-story house in Mumbai's upscale Juhu neighborhood was spacious enough for them to maintain their carefully orchestrated distance. Their marriage had been arranged by their parents. The Malhotras needed the business connections of the Sharma family, and the Sharmas needed the social standing of the Malhotras. Vikram and Priya had met twice before their wedding, exchanged vows before 800 guests, and then settled into a life of polite indifference. Mr. and Mrs. Perfect, his mother often said proudly when they visited for Sunday lunches, oblivious to the emptiness between them. After dinner, Vikram wandered into the living room and poured himself a whiskey. Through the large bay window, he could see into the garden where Priya had planted rows of marigolds and jasmine. The flowers thrived under her care, unlike their relationship. His phone buzzed with a message from his father. "Meeting with the Kapoor group tomorrow, 9 a.m. Don't be late." Vikram sighed. Another acquisition. Another expansion of the family business. The machine never stopped, and he was just a cog, doing what was expected, just as he had done when he agreed to marry Priya. He took his drink upstairs, pausing briefly outside her closed door. A soft light shone from underneath. For a moment, he considered knocking, asking about her day, breaking their routine of silence. But what would he say after 4 years? How would he begin? Instead, he continued to his own room at the end of the hall. Inside, he placed his whiskey on the nightstand and loosened his shirt buttons. Photos from their wedding day sat in silver, frames on his dresser, both of them smiling for the camera, her in a red lehenga heavy with gold embroidery, him in a cream sherwani. They looked happy, expectant. Strangers playing parts in a well-rehearsed play. Later, as he lay in bed reviewing quarterly reports, he heard her door open and close, followed by soft footsteps down the stairs. The sound of the kettle being filled, the click as it was turned on, her nightly cup of chamomile tea. Vikram closed his laptop and rubbed his tired eyes. Tomorrow would be the same as today. The same silent breakfast eaten at different times. The same perfunctory text message, "We'll be late, don't wait up," that he'd send even when he wasn't working late, just to avoid another quiet dinner across from each other. Sometimes he wondered if Priya was as lonely as he was, or if she preferred their arrangement. They had never discussed it. They had never really discussed anything beyond household logistics and family obligations. As sleep began to claim him, Vikram realized he couldn't remember the last time he'd heard Priya laugh. He wasn't sure he would even recognize the sound. Glimpses. The invitation sat on Vikram's desk for 3 days before he noticed it. Cream-colored cardstock with elegant gold lettering. The Bombay Art Society cordially invites you to the opening of Whispers in Color, a group exhibition. He was about to toss it into his recycling bin when a familiar name caught his eye in the list of featured artists, Priya Malhotra. He stared at the name, certain there must be some mistake. His Priya? The woman who moved through their home like a shadow, who spoke in measured tones about grocery lists and utility bills? An artist? It made no sense. In 4 years, he had never seen her pick up a paintbrush or mention any interest in art. Their living room displayed only the landscape paintings his mother had selected and the formal portrait of his grandparents that was a Malhotra tradition. That evening, he arrived home earlier than usual. The house was quiet, but a light shone from beneath the door of the small study they never used. He hesitated before knocking softly. Yes? Priya's voice sounded different, startled, perhaps even annoyed at the interruption. Vikram opened the door and froze. The neat, practical woman he knew had disappeared. In her place stood someone with paint-splattered jeans and a loose cotton shirt. Her usually perfect bun, now a messy knot with escaping tendrils framing her face. Behind her, a canvas bloomed with colors, deep blues transitioning to fiery oranges, with delicate white forms that seemed to dance across the surface. For once, the always articulate Vikram found himself at a loss for words. Priya quickly moved to stand in front of the canvas. "Did you need something?" He held up the invitation. "This came to the office. I didn't know you painted." A flush spread across her cheeks. "It's just a hobby." "A hobby that got you into a prestigious exhibition?" She shrugged, her discomfort evident. "My teacher submitted my work without telling me. I was going to mention it, but you've been busy with the Kapoor acquisition." The observation stung with its accuracy. When had he last asked about her interests? Her dreams? The painting? "May I see it?" Reluctance flickered across her face before she stepped aside. The canvas was larger than he'd initially thought, nearly 4 feet tall. Up close, he could see that the white forms were dancers, their bodies elongated and ethereal against the vibrant background. "It's beautiful," he said, genuinely moved by the emotion captured in each brushstroke. "Thank you." Her voice was soft, uncertain. "Will you be at the opening?" "Yes. My parents are coming, but not him." The unspoken truth hung between them. She hadn't expected him to attend, hadn't even considered inviting him. "I'd like to come," he said impulsively. Surprise widened her eyes. "You don't have to. I know how busy you are." "I want to." And to his surprise, he meant it. The night of the exhibition, Vikram arrived late due to a meeting that ran over. The gallery was crowded, ambient music mixing with the murmur of conversations and the clink of wine glasses. He spotted Priya's parents immediately. Her father in his trademark linen suit, her mother elegant in a silk sari. They nodded politely when they saw him, surprise evident in their expressions. He searched the room for Priya and finally found her in a corner, deep in conversation with an older woman who gestured animatedly at one of the paintings. Priya was laughing, a full, rich sound he had never heard before. She wore a simple black dress that contrasted with her usual conservative attire, and her hair fell in loose waves around her shoulders. Vikram stood transfixed. Who was this woman? Certainly not the quiet, dutiful wife who moved through their home like a ghost. This Priya glowed with passion and life, her hands moving expressively as she spoke, her eyes bright with enthusiasm. He watched as gallery visitors approached her, complimenting her work. She accepted their praise with grace, but also engaged, them in genuine conversation about technique and inspiration. She was knowledgeable, articulate, confident, all qualities he had never associated with the woman who shared his address, but not his life. Her painting had sold within the first hour, a small red dot now marking its label. The curator approached her with a champagne flute, offering congratulations that made Priya beam with pride. When she finally noticed him standing there, her smile faltered momentarily before she excused herself from her conversation and walked over. "You came," she said, a question in her voice. "I said I would." He handed her the bouquet of lilies he'd picked up on his way. "Congratulations! Your work is impressive." She accepted the flowers, her fingers brushing against his. "Thank you for coming." Something flickered between them. Not quite connection, but an acknowledgement, perhaps. A recognition that there were depths to each other they had never explored as... They stood awkwardly, unsure how to proceed. One of the other artists called Priya away to meet a potential collector. She hesitated, then turned to Vikram. "Will you stay? There's a small reception afterward." "Yes," he found himself saying. "I'll stay." Later that night, driving home separately as they always did from the few social events they attended together, Vikram couldn't stop thinking about the woman he'd glimpsed. Passionate, talented, alive. So different from the careful, distant Priya he thought he knew. He wondered what else he might discover if he only took the time to look. Small steps. The morning after the exhibition, Vikram woke earlier than usual. Instead of rushing through his typical routine, he lingered in the kitchen, brewing coffee and setting the table for two. When Priya appeared in her silk robe, she paused at the doorway, clearly surprised to find him still at home. "Good morning," he said, sliding a cup of coffee toward the empty chair across from him. "I thought we might have breakfast together." Uncertainty flickered across her face. "I have toast and fruit usually." "I know. I made some." He gestured to the plate of multigrain toast and sliced mangoes. She sat carefully, as if expecting a trap. "Thank you." They ate in silence for several minutes, the unfamiliarity of sharing a meal making conversation difficult. Vikram searched for something to say, something that might bridge the vast distance between them. "Your painting," he finally began. "The dancers. Was it inspired by something specific?" Priya looked up, surprise evident in her expression. "Yes, actually. I used to study Bharatanatyam as a girl. My mother thought it would make me more graceful." A small smile touched her lips. "I wasn't very good, but I loved the movement, the storytelling through gesture." "I didn't know you danced." "There's a lot we don't know about each other, isn't there?" The observation carried no bitterness, just a quiet acknowledgement of their reality. Vikram nodded. "I'd like to change that, if you're willing." She studied him, wariness in her dark eyes. "Why now? After 4 years?" He had no easy answer. "I suppose I never really looked before. Or maybe I wasn't ready to see." The honesty seemed to surprise her. She finished her coffee and stood. "I have a class to teach at the community center this morning." "Another thing I didn't know," he said with a self-deprecating smile. "Art therapy for seniors. Twice a week." She hesitated. "Thank you for breakfast." It was a small beginning, awkward and uncertain, but it was something. Over the next few weeks, Vikram made consistent, careful efforts. He came home at reasonable hours. He asked questions about her day, her art, her classes. He suggested they eat dinner together, even offering to cook occasionally. Terrible attempts at pasta that made her smile despite herself. For her part, Priya remained cautious. She answered his questions but rarely elaborated. She accepted his presence at dinner, but kept conversation light and impersonal. The walls she had built over 4 years of emotional solitude weren't easily dismantled. "My mother called," she mentioned one evening as they cleared the dinner dishes. "She wanted to know if we're coming to my cousin Nishant's wedding next month." "Do you want to go?" She shrugged. "It's in Udaipur. 3 days of ceremonies." "That sounds nice. A break from the city." Priya looked at him curiously. "You'd take time off work? I can manage a few days." He hesitated. "We could make it a proper trip. Stay a bit longer, see the lakes." The suggestion hung between them, not quite a romantic getaway, but more than the obligatory family appearance they usually made. "I'll think about it," she said finally. The next day, Vikram left work early to attend one of Priya's art therapy classes. He sat quietly in the back, watching as she guided a group of elderly participants through a watercolor exercise. Her patience and gentle encouragement brought out the best in them. One old man with trembling hands produced a surprisingly beautiful landscape under her guidance. "Your wife has a gift," the center director told Vikram afterward. "Some of our participants haven't spoken in months, but they talk to Priya. She sees something in them that others miss." Just as Vikram was beginning to see something in her. That evening, he found Priya in her studio, working on a new canvas. He knocked on the open door, and she looked up, brushes in hand. "Your class was impressive today," he said. She wiped her hands on a cloth. "You came. I wanted to see you teach." He stepped into the room, careful not to intrude too far into her space. "The director says you've made quite an impact." A genuine smile lit her face. "They're amazing people. So many stories, so much wisdom." She gestured to her canvas. "This is inspired by Mr. Sharma, the gentleman with the blue sweater. He was a boat builder in Kashmir before the troubles forced him to leave. The way he described the lakes at dawn." Her voice was animated, her hands moving expressively as she explained her composition. Vikram realized he could listen to her talk about her passion for hours. When she finished, a self-conscious flush colored her cheeks. "Sorry, I tend to ramble about my work." "Don't apologize. I like hearing about it." He moved closer to examine the painting. "It's beautiful." Their eyes met, and for a moment the air between them felt charged with possibility. Then Priya stepped back, restoring the careful distance they maintained. "About Udaipur," she said. "I booked the tickets, and a hotel for 5 days if that's all right." "That's perfect," he replied, recognizing the significance of her decision. Later, that week, a package arrived at Vikram's office. Inside, he found an elegant wooden frame containing a small watercolor, a study for the dancer painting he had seen at the exhibition. No note accompanied it, but none was needed. That night, he hung it in his bedroom where it would be the first thing he saw each morning, a reminder of the woman he was slowly discovering, and perhaps of the man he hoped to become. The distance between them remained, built of years of practiced indifference and unspoken hurts. But now, at least, they had begun to build a bridge. Across it, one small gesture, one shared meal, one genuine conversation at a time. Neither rushed the process. They had constructed their separate lives meticulously over 4 years. Dismantling those boundaries would take time and courage. But for the first time since their arranged marriage began, both felt something they had never expected to find in their relationship: possibility. Breaking point. The call came at 2:17 a.m., shattering the silence of their bedroom with its shrill persistence. Vikram fumbled for his phone in the darkness, his mind still clouded with sleep. "Hello?" His voice was rough with confusion. Priya stirred beside him. They had begun sharing a bed during their trip to Udaipur 2 months ago, though intimacy between them remained tentative and new. "Mr. Malhotra?" The voice on the other end was professionally somber. "This is Dr. Rajiv from Lilavati Hospital. I'm calling about your father." The world tilted sharply. Vikram sat up, fully awake now. "What happened?" "He's had a severe cardiac event. He's stable for now, but we need you to come as soon as possible." Priya was sitting up now, too, concern etched across her face in the dim light filtering through the curtains. "What is it?" "My father," Vikram managed, already moving to find clothes. "Heart attack. He's at Lilavati." Without hesitation, Priya slid from the bed. "I'll drive. You're in no state." The hospital corridors seemed endless, their antiseptic smell burning Vikram's nostrils as they hurried toward the cardiac intensive care unit. His mother sat alone in the waiting area, her face ashen, hands clutching her prayer beads. Amma. Vikram knelt before her, taking her trembling hands in his. How is he? Tears filled her eyes. They won't tell me much. Just that it was serious. That they're doing everything they can. Her gaze shifted to Priya, who stood slightly apart, giving them space. You came too, Betty. Good. Priya stepped forward, sitting beside her mother-in-law and wrapping an arm around her shoulders. Of course. We're family. The simple declaration hung in the air. Family. Not by obligation or arrangement, but by choice, by presence in this moment of crisis. Hours passed in agonizing slowness. Vikram paced the waiting room, made calls to relatives, spoke with doctors in hushed, urgent tones. Through it all, Priya remained, bringing coffee, liaising with nurses, ensuring his mother ate something, handling the stream of relatives who began arriving as dawn broke. It was nearly noon when the surgeon emerged, his face revealing nothing. The procedure was successful, but the next 48 hours are critical. He'll need to make significant lifestyle changes going forward. Relief made Vikram's knees weak. Can we see him? Briefly. He needs rest. Vikram's father looked diminished against the white hospital sheets, tubes and wires connecting him to softly beeping machines. His skin had a grayish pallor, and his usually commanding presence had shrunk to something frighteningly vulnerable. Papa, Vikram whispered, taking his father's hand gently. His father's eyes flickered open. The Kapoor deal, he rasped. You need to finalize it this week. Even now, the business came first. Anger flared briefly in Vikram's chest. Don't worry about that now. It's important. His father's grip tightened weakly. Everything we've worked for. You're important, Vikram countered. The business can wait. A shadow of irritation crossed his father's face. You've always been too soft, too willing to put things off. The familiar criticisms stung, especially here now. Before Vikram could respond, Priya stepped forward. Uncle, she said quietly but firmly. Vikram has been at the hospital all night worrying about you, not the business. The Kapoor deal will be handled, but right now, your health is what matters to your family. Surprise flickered across his father's face. In 4 years, Priya had never contradicted him, had always been the perfectly deferential daughter-in-law. The moment passed as fatigue overtook him. We'll talk later, he murmured, eyes closing. Outside the room, Vikram leaned against the wall, suddenly exhausted. Thank you, he said to Priya, for what you said in there. She studied him. He's always been hard on you, hasn't he? It's his way of showing he cares, I suppose. The justification sounded hollow even to his own ears. Is it? Or is it his way of controlling you? Her voice was gentle but direct. Like arranging your marriage to secure a business alliance. The observation hit too close to home. We should check on my mother, he said, deflecting. Priya placed a hand on his arm. Vikram, when was the last time you made a decision that was truly yours? Not what was expected of you, not what was good for the family business, but what you wanted. The question lingered between them, unanswered. Later that night, after ensuring his mother would stay with her sister who lived nearby, they returned, home. The house felt different somehow. The silence no longer that of strangers avoiding each other, but of two people carrying the weight of unspoken truths. In the kitchen, Vikram mechanically went through the motions of making tea. His hands shook slightly as he filled the kettle. You don't have to be strong all the time, Priya said quietly from the doorway. It's okay to be afraid. Something broke inside him, a dam holding back years of suppressed emotions. The teacup slipped from his grasp, shattering on the floor as his shoulders began to shake. Priya moved to him without hesitation, her arms encircling him as he finally allowed himself to feel the fear, the exhaustion, the pressure of always meeting expectations that were never his own. "I don't know who I am anymore," he admitted, his voice muffled against her shoulder. "I've spent my whole life becoming what my father wanted, what the family needed." "I know," she whispered. "I've spent our marriage being what I thought you expected. Quiet, undemanding, invisible." He pulled back to look at her. "I never wanted you to be invisible." "What did you want? When they told you about the arrangement, what did you hope for?" The question made him realize how little he had allowed himself to want or hope for back then. "I don't know, I just accepted it, like everything else." They sat at the kitchen table, the broken teacup forgotten, finally having the conversation they should have had 4 years ago. "I almost refused," Priya admitted. "I had dreams of studying art in Paris, but my father talked about the opportunities, the stability, and my mother." She smiled sadly. "She said love could grow in arranged marriages, that it was about building something together." "Do you regret it?" Vikram asked, afraid of her answer. She considered this. "I regret that we wasted 4 years not trying, not seeing each other." Her eyes met his. "But now? No. I don't regret being here tonight with you." The simple honesty of her words touched something deep within him. For the first time, Vikram truly saw the strength in her, not just the artistic talent he had recently discovered, but the quiet resilience that had sustained her through years of emotional solitude. "I want to know what you want, Priya. Not what your parents wanted for you, not what you think I expect. What do you want?" She took a deep breath. "I want a marriage that's real. I want to know the man I live with, his dreams, his fears, his favorite songs. I want to build something that's ours, not our family's. And I want—" She hesitated. "What?" "I want to know if we could have fallen in love, if we'd been given the chance to choose each other." The vulnerability in her voice matched what he felt in his heart. Slowly, Vikram reached across the table and took her hand. "Maybe we can find out," he said softly. "Maybe it's not too late to choose." New beginning. The garden had been Vikram's idea, transforming the unused section of their backyard into a space they could create together. 6 months after his father's heart attack, it had become their weekend ritual. Priya designing the layout, Vikram handling the heavier work of digging and building raised beds. "Careful with those seedlings," Priya cautioned, watching as he transferred delicate tomato plants into the soil. "They need gentle hands. Unlike the roses last month, I still have thorn scars." He showed her his palm with mock indignation. She laughed, the sound no longer unfamiliar to his ears. Battle wounds of a suburban gardener. The easy banter between them was still new enough to feel precious. Their relationship had transformed gradually after that night in the kitchen. Not in dramatic declarations or grand gestures, but in small, deliberate choices to see and know each other. Vikram had taken a step back from the family business, delegating more responsibilities to allow himself time to discover his own interests. He had surprised himself by developing a passion for photography, often accompanying Priya to scenic locations where she would paint while he captured images of the changing light, the textures of nature, the quiet moments of beauty. "Your father called again," Priya mentioned, kneeling beside him to plant herbs. "He wants us for dinner on Sunday." Vikram nodded. His relationship with his father had shifted too. Not easily or without conflict, but necessarily. The heart attack had forced. Conversations too long delayed, truths too long ignored. "Did he sound well?" "Better. Your mother says he's even doing the breathing exercises the doctor recommended." "Miracles do happen," Vikram said dryly. They worked in companionable silence for a while, the afternoon sun warm on their backs. A comfortable rhythm had developed between them, knowing when to speak, when to simply be present, when to give each other space. "Remember when you asked if I regretted our marriage?" Priya said suddenly, her hands still in the soil. "That night at the hospital?" "I remember." She looked up at him, soil smudged across one cheek. "I've been thinking about that question differently lately. Not whether I regret what happened, but whether I would choose it now, knowing what I know." Vikram set down his trowel, giving her his full attention. "And?" "I would," she said simply. "Not the way it happened, all those years of silence. But you, this—" She gestured to the garden, to the home they had truly begun to share. "I would choose this." The words settled in Vikram's chest, warm and certain. He reached out to brush the soil from her cheek, his fingers lingering against her skin. "So would I." Later that evening, they sat on their newly built garden bench, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades reminiscent of Priya's artwork. Her head rested against his shoulder, his arm around her waist, physical closeness that had once seemed impossible now as natural as breathing. "I have something for you," Vikram said, reaching into his pocket. He handed her a small envelope. Priya opened it curiously, pulling out 2 airline tickets. "Paris?" She looked at him in disbelief. "In September?" "I spoke with the director at École des Beaux-Arts. They have a 3-month visiting artist program. It's not exactly studying there as you once dreamed, but—" He didn't finish as Priya threw her arms around him, the tickets clutched tightly in her hand. "How did you even know about that?" "You mentioned it once, your dream of studying art in Paris. I wanted to give you back something of what you gave up." Tears shimmered in her eyes. "But your work, the business, will manage without me for 3 months." He smiled. "Besides, I've always wanted to photograph the Seine at dawn." "You're coming too?" "If you want me to." Her answer was in the kiss she pressed to his lips. Tender, certain, chosen. Inside their home, evidence of their shared life had gradually replaced the separate existences they once maintained. Vikram's photography books mingled with Priya's art supplies in the living room. The formal dining room had been converted into a studio space where they both worked, she at her easel, he at his desk editing images. Photos from their travels, weekend trips to the mountains, a seaside vacation, were displayed alongside. Family portraits, visual reminders of the life they were building together. That night, as they prepared for bed, Priya paused before her dresser, contemplating something in her hands. Vikram recognized the small velvet box that had held their wedding rings. Rings they had worn publicly but which had meant little privately. "What are you thinking?" he asked, coming to stand behind her. She opened the box, revealing the 2 gold bands. "I was thinking these never really meant anything when we first wore them. They were just props in a performance for our families." Vikram nodded, understanding what she meant. Their wedding had been a spectacle. A business merger dressed in tradition and ceremony, void of the commitment that should have accompanied it. "But now?" he asked softly. Priya turned to face him, holding one of the rings. "Now I think I'd like to wear it again, not because I'm supposed to, but because I want to, because it would mean something true." The significance of her gesture wasn't lost on him. She was offering not just reconciliation with their past, but a commitment to their future, one made freely, with full knowledge of each other. Vikram took the other ring from the box. "Then perhaps we should give them new meaning." In the quiet of their bedroom, they exchanged the rings again. No elaborate ceremony, no hundreds of witnesses, just 2 people making a choice that was finally, completely their own. "I, Vikram, choose you, Priya," he said softly, sliding the ring onto her finger. not because of family expectations or business advantages, but because I have come to love the woman you are, your strength, your creativity, your kindness. I choose to build a life with you, to see you and be seen by you, to grow together in all the years to come. Tears slipped down Priya's cheeks as she placed his ring on his finger. I, Priya, choose you, Vikram, not from duty or obligation, but because I love the man I've discovered beneath the surface, thoughtful, genuine, brave enough to change. I choose to share my dreams with you, to face challenges together, to create a marriage of equals built on understanding and respect. They had been married for nearly 5 years according to legal documents and social recognition, but as they held each other in the soft lamplight of their bedroom, both knew that their marriage, their real marriage, was just beginning. Morning light filtered through the curtains, illuminating the garden they had built together. Vikram watched Priya as she slept, her face peaceful, one hand resting near his on the pillow between them. The gold of her ring caught the sunlight, a symbol not of what bound them together, but of what they had chosen to become. They had been given a marriage arranged by others, but they had created a love story that was entirely their own. It had taken them years to see each other clearly, to break through the silence and expectations that separated them. But in doing so, they had discovered something profound. That sometimes the greatest love stories aren't about falling in love at first sight, but about choosing love day after day, even when, especially when, it would be easier not to. Outside, the garden waited for their attention, seeds they had planted together beginning to sprout. Inside, in the quiet morning light, Vikram smiled at the woman who had become not just his wife, but his partner, his friend, his chosen love. Whatever came next, they would face it together, no longer bound by family obligation, but united by something far stronger. A love they had built themselves, with open eyes and willing hearts.